Hi everyone, I'm excited to present the sixth installation in our Famous Artist series. This one is all about Vincent van Gogh. The purpose of this video is to give you an overview of how I've set up this unit so that once you start it with your kiddos, you can hit the ground running. So let's dive right in. This unit is organized into 4 distinct sessions, ideally 40 minutes each. Obviously, if you need to, the components can be modified if you need to adjust things for your setting. So for the first session, you're going to be presenting a digital storybook where you're going to present several of Van Gogh's paintings. Of course, he's known for his incredible portraits and his incredible flower still lifes, but this particular unit is all about his landscapes. So we're going to be starting off looking at his most famous landscape, the Starry Night, and then we're going to follow up with several others. The script is strategically composed to focus kids' attention on the sky. Van Gogh's fascination with the sky is one of those things that's really relatable and universal for young kids. So his approach to color and movement in the sky is really our inspiration for the studio project in this unit. So after looking at several examples of how he made the sky one of the main characters in so many of his paintings, you're going to explain to the kiddos that they will soon be creating their own sky-centric landscapes. You're going to present an exploring sky color worksheet, and it looks something like this. They'll use crayons or color pencils with this, and it basically offers them 4 very sky-heavy landscapes. Landscape is one of those key words in this project where you can kind of help them understand that that's a picture of a place. But it's not a particular picture of an exact specific place. The details in a landscape help decide where exactly that place is. So here are 4 different examples, and there's so much sky space in there because the whole idea with this handout is that they are going to let the sky be the main character in each of these little pictures. They're going to let the title of each picture really control the personality of that sky. So the first one is the Starry Night. The second one is the Stormy Afternoon. And then we have the Fiery Sunset. And the last one is kind of fun. They have the opportunity to insert their own title. So if there's a type of sky that they've been thinking about that they really want to try, this is a great option to give them some time to express that. So I have a completed one in the slideshow that you can show them. This certainly is not meant to be the example that they need to copy. It's an example. Especially if you're kind of struggling kiddos that really don't understand what they're supposed to be doing. It's great to have a finished option, but I always kind of get nervous with showing them finished options because there is sort of this automatic, oh, that's what we do, I'll copy that. So really try to emphasize to them that this is just an example. Then once they get that done, they're basically done with the second session. So I'm sorry, that finishes up the first session. The second session is super fun because you're going to have them kind of get into that creative mindset again, thinking about the sky with a really cute book by Peter Reynolds called Sky Color. And if you don't have it or you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend you check it out. Usually it's available in a library. You can also purchase a copy, or you can find free read alouds online on YouTube. So whichever route feels easiest for you, I encourage you to go for it. After you read it to them, you could pose some questions. What do you think Marisol, the main character in the story, would think of Van Gogh's use of sky color? And just see what they have to say. I'm sure they'll have all kinds of fun answers for you. But then you're going to quickly transition into a discussion of how they are going to be creating their sky prints. It's a very unique approach that is very different from the crayon color pencil option from that handout in session 1. In this session, they're going to be using foil, aluminum foil, and I recommend you kind of arrange this before you are working with them. Tape it onto a workspace, a tray if you have one, but if not, you can tape it directly to a table. And then you're going to be drizzling some paint directly onto the foil, and they're going to be using their fingers to spread that paint around that real slick surface of the foil. If you don't have foil, you could technically do this probably on saran wrap or even an aluminum like cookie sheet, or directly on the table. If it's not a table you're worried about getting any stain on. Blue tempera paint sometimes does have a staining quality to it. It comes out with bleach, of course, but even when they're using their fingers on that paint, just kind of heads up that the blue in particular wants to stain the skin a little longer than other colors do. It goes away, but it just is one of those colors. But they're going to basically be doing this whole activity during session 2 twice. The first time they're doing it with white, medium blue, and dark blue tempera, and they're going to kind of smear this paint all over the foil. They can play with spiral lines like we see in Vincent's, Starry Night, but they can also do rays. They can have fun with it. However they end up printing it, kind of designing it with their fingers, they're ultimately going to take a sheet of paper. I recommend something a little heavier. This is technically watercolor paper, but cardstock could work. I made this letter size 8.5 by 11, but you could play with that as long as it is roughly the size of your foil that you've taped down. You should be fine. So you're basically going to very carefully have them lay the paper down on top of the foil that they've spread the paint around on, and then gently rub the back of the paper and then peel it up to reveal their design. And so once they've done that, they need to put that picture somewhere to dry. Oh, I should have mentioned, have them write their name in pencil on the back of both papers. They use 2 papers for this before you even get them near the paints. That way there's no debating whose is whose. But for the moment that you are finished with the blue sky and put that picture away to dry, you're going to have them take a rag, a paper towel. If you want to run around and do this yourself, you can, but the kids should be able to handle it. They basically just wipe all that excess paint off. Shouldn't be a ton. You really don't want to put down a ton of paint because when you put too much paint onto that foil, you when they go to print it, it's just something about the surface is a little too gooey, and the paper tends to shift a little. I learned this from experience, and I'll share it with you. You lose a lot of your detail when the paint kind of squeezes out. So light amount of paint, that will help with cleanup time too, just to wipe all that blue paint off. Not to say that this isn't beautiful. They could certainly still use a print like this for this project and many other things, but less is more when it comes to this one, so you can get some real quality, detail and lines in those guys. Then once the foil's dry, or cleaned and wiped off and hopefully dry, you don't want to leave that foil wet because the water kind of pools on top of the foil. This time you're going to go around and drizzle white, orange, and yellow paint. And so again, same idea. I would encourage them to try the second one in a different approach and just kind of smear it around with their fingers. Maybe just use one hand with the smearing so that they can use their other hand to grab the paper and push it down and rub. The idea with both of these, let's get this one, is that by the end of this session, now these include the stuff that we add in session 3, so if you can kind of ignore that part for right now, just this, where we should end up with a blue one and an orange one. And they leave those to dry, and that is the end of session 2. So for session 3, you're going to need those dry prints, and you're going to be presenting some fun facts real quick about the Starry Night painting, but then you're going to very quickly transition into the actual studio component for session 3, and that's all about adding that skyline. Now, I include this one in the show, but I'm this slideshow, but I encourage you to think about lots of different options. You're handing them a black rectangle, and they're going to need a white crayon. You could do this with pencil. Pencil shows up very nicely on black paper as well, but basically they're getting the crayon, a white crayon, and drawing a line halfway across this rectangle from side to side. And what they do with that line is going to control what their skyline, I call it a skyline, you could call it a horizon line. It just sort of depends what kind of landscape they're going for. But if it's a straight line, it'll be kind of straightforward, just land. If you put curves, you're going to get kind of a hilly hillside. If you put, a zigzag, you might get like mountaintop type of look. And then if you make it jagged, up, sideways, down, sideways, up, sideways, down, sideways, that's where you get that kind of cityscape type of look. Those are all words you can toss out to them and kind of point out, help them make a choice. And then they cut on that line. And once they cut, they have two little black shapes that they can then use. I'll give you an example. So here would be one that was cut. So you basically just take the top one and turn it, and now you have one for your blue print and one for your orange print. Now they can flip these, they can you know, do whatever they want with them. If they're struggling with that, and some little guys do struggle, I just want to present two other options. And I mentioned these in the slideshow, but just for a visual, this one, I literally just took it and tore it in half. So that gives a real organic kind of edge, which is kind of nice. Some kids might want to do that on purpose if they like that look. Again, you end up with two of them. Or another option is to cut your own out of, this is chipboard. You can do it out of cardboard, you can do it out of cardstock, and it's let me see if I can get this right. It's same idea. You're just cutting from a rectangle, cutting that real jagged line, and then like on this one, I sat there and kind of made some points on some of these just to give it a little more of a dynamic look, but I didn't do it on this one, so this one still looks pretty cool. And then they could lay that on top of their own black paper, trace it, and then cut it. So you know your kids, whatever you feel comfortable offering them, just be aware that those are some options to simplify that if they're struggling. So once they get it how they like it, encourage them to flip it over, because that'll control a little bit the look too, so they can kind of play with that. But once they have it how they like it, they're going to use a glue stick and they're going to glue it to their print. You want to emphasize that they glue it to the bottom edge. You'd be surprised how many kids, you know, put it right in the middle. So you want to kind of encourage them, get it down to the bottom. This is all about the sky, so we want to leave as much of the sky big and open as possible. And then if time permits or their interest is there, you can also offer a little piece of yellow construction paper, and that can be used just to, I'm trying to find mine, just to add like some windows, just a little yellow random scrap. If you want to offer other colors, you could too, but we cut those into little tiny rectangles and just glued them randomly onto that landscape component to give it a look of like windows. And you could also cut these into little circles or, you know, little stars, a sun, a moon shape, and put it up in the sky if interested. So that's just kind of an extra option to consider. You would do all that with a glue stick. And so that would represent the end of session 3. And so the last session, the 4th session, is all about reviewing what they've learned so far. You offer a digital review, which is all scripted in the slideshow. You can throw in some blank slides if you're interested in adding your own details to that review. Then you're gonna have an art show where you basically encourage all the kids to spread out their work on a tabletop or on the floor, talk about what they see, talk about what they like, talk about what they don't like, talk about what they would do if they could try this over again, and get them looking at the spirals, get them looking for kids that may have interpreted it in a different way. Maybe somebody did zigzag lines or dash lines, or you know, I put a few prompts in the slideshow that can guide your group discussion, but you can also allow that conversation to happen totally organically. Kids don't always need a scripted prompt to have a conversation about their art. They love to talk about their stuff, so you may just be able to sit back and let them talk. And then the last component is the self-assessment. And so it's real simple, very similar format to what you've seen if you've been trying out the other projects. It is 4 questions in kind of a little rubric format where they sort of just rate themselves. Now, if you don't feel inclined to print this for every one of your kiddos, I don't know how many kids you're working with, but you could also just present this digitally, or you could just say the questions to them and have them rate themselves quietly, just something for them to quietly think about or share their answer with a partner. But the prompts are, number 1, I swirled paint around on foil. So that's a big fun component in this project, is just that kind of tactile swirling of the paint on that slick surface. So you want them kind of thinking about how they handled that component. And then the second one says, I pressed paper onto the foil to create 2 prints. making those prints, stamping fresh paper on to wet paint was a huge component of this project. So you want them thinking, how did I do with that part? Did I smear it? Was I too careless there? Was I playing too much? Or did mine come out fantastic? The third one is I used scissors and glue to add a skyline to my print. So that's where they're really thinking about session 3. How did they do with that black paper? Even if they tore it or came up with their own creative solution, did the outcome yield something that they feel excited about and proud of? And then the fourth one is all about craftsmanship and effort. So it says, I used my materials carefully and tried my best on this project. So, that's an important thing for them to be thinking about in every project they do. What did I do here? Was I trying hard and being careful and being safe? So the last session, as always, is a little opportunity for you to make some personal comments directly to kids. This can be sent home if you do print it out with the finished project. And that helps us reach the finish line. I did include an early finisher suggestion if kids have the time at the end of any session in the unit, or just have an interest in doing a little more, just to literally put the Starry Night on display and let them try to copy what they see. Copying is people get scared of that word, but honestly, so many kids enjoy doing that with that specific painting that I don't resist it when they want to in my room. And I mean, up through 5th grade, they just have fun trying their own interpretation of that image. So if you can put that on display, if you have a poster or a digital display of it, and let them just kind of have fun with it, that's just another option. There are a ton of other really great art projects for kids that you can connect to Vincent van Gogh. This is just one of them. So I hope you have fun with this, and maybe we'll try some different ones in the future. If you are inclined to share some feedback about this, I would love to hear it. I would love to see pictures if you're willing to share any of your kids in action. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy and have fun.